Hello world, welcome back to the Razor RC, and we are doing the full review of the Arrma Senton 4x2 Boost. So this is a brand new 10 scale two-wheel drive electric short course truck, kind of an entry-level model that Arrma came out with about a month ago, a few weeks ago, and I've been running it, bashing it, even racing it a little bit, taking it to the track, and wanted to share my thoughts and opinions on this brand new vehicle. So the way this works is we do this giving it a rating in 6 different categories from 1 to 5 stars, and it's all great on the curve. So other competitors in the two-wheel drive short course truck space are going to be obviously the Traxxas Slash. Most of you probably know what a Traxxas Slash is. Kind of an entry-level vehicle from Traxxas. Kind of kicked off the whole short course truck movement, of which the Senton is obviously a part of. We're also going to have some other vehicles out there, like the Arrma Granite Voltage, which is again an entry-level like monster truck. I would say even something like the ECX Amp MT is kind of a competitor to that. Again, a brushed two-wheel drive monster truck, short course truck, monster truck. They're a little bit different. The Senton does come in other variations. Also the Arrma Granite Boost, so that is a little two-wheel drive monster truck, and then also the Arrma Vortex Boost, so that is a two-wheel drive stadium truck. But you may have seen this vehicle before, because when you look at it under the hood, it's actually the exact same vehicle as the Senton Mega 4x4, which is their brushed short course truck, four-wheel drive, and all they did was basically take out the front diffs, front drive shafts, and center drive shaft, and then they basically released it as the Boost. So it is completely upgradable up to the 4x4 lineup. When you get the Senton 4x2, you can upgrade to the 4x4. You get the Arrma 4x2, you can the Vortex or the Granite 4x2s, you can also upgrade them to four-wheel drive. So the 6 different categories are going to be the electronics. So it is a brushed vehicle, 12-turn 540 size cam motor. We're going to talk about the design. You know, it is the classic 4x4 design that Arrma uses throughout their whole range. We're going to talk about the performance. How does it actually drive? It is a pretty interesting vehicle. Can you just take a 4x4 and remove the front drive shafts and call it a two-wheel drive vehicle? We'll talk about that. We're also talking about the durability. How is this thing actually in collisions, driving it, crashing it? Does it break easily? That kind of stuff. Talk about the support and maintenance. So whenever you have an RC car, it's really nice to be able to pick up spare parts. You know, go down to your local hobby shop if you need warranty work, if you need to call up the manufacturer to get information. This is going to be very helpful if you have good support and maintenance. And finally, the value. The Senton Boost sells for $199.99 here in the United States. That is on the cheaper side for a 10 scale you know, brushed vehicle out there. So we'll talk about how does it compare to the other ones out there. Is it worth that money? And then you know, give it a rating from 1 to 5 stars. So 5 stars would mean best in class among all those vehicles. 3 stars would be average. So if this is kind of comparable to what else you can get there, it gets 3 stars. And then if it's quite poor, it would get 1 star. So let's get into the review. On the electronic side, the Spectrum comes with this. I don't know if this has come with any other vehicle. I don't think so, but someone let me know if I'm wrong. It is the SLT2 radio receiver. Maybe it comes on the regular Mega, but they did recently rebrand a lot of these electronics in the last few years. So the SLT2 radio, actually a pretty strong entry-level radio. It's got a nice foam wheel, feels really good, not much slop or play at all. The trigger feels excellent, feels very similar to the SLT3 radio. So this radio looks somewhat similar, you know, similar like grip size and shape, a little bit on the smaller side for an, you know, an RC radio. So would fit smaller hands like kids' hands and stuff actually quite well. Takes 4 AA's, although it doesn't really tell you which way the batteries go, so I just marked it plus, minus, so I know which way to orient the batteries when I stick it in there. I think it is 2.4 gigahertz. Does have a couple options for adjustments. Does have steering trim, which is all important on an RC car. You definitely want that. And then it's got steering dual weight, so it basically can bring in the travel of the tires all together on the left and right equally. That way you're not overextending the servo, turning it left or right. Something you definitely want to set. It was set to max out of the box, which is not right. On my particular vehicle, I have it, you know, set to about whatever that is, 85% or so. So definitely mess with that and get it running correctly. Throttle limiter as well, really nice, 50, 75, 100%. And then steering reversing, so if your steering is going backwards, make sure you just flip that switch and it'll be turning the right way. Power switch here as well. So yeah, solid radio overall. Works totally fine. Actually, one of the better for entry-level radios, you know, compared to like the Traxxas TQ. I actually like this a little bit better than the ECX radio. I forgot what the name of that is. And even the low-end Arrma Granite Voltage, I think, comes with like the ATX 101. This is actually a better radio, so that is certainly excellent. They do have this combo 2-in-1 receiver and ESC. I think it's like a 40 amp brushed ESC. Fairly basic ESC. Does support LiPo up to 2S, so that's nice. So you can run nickel metal hydride or 2S LiPos. And the one really cool thing about this is it actually has space for an external receiver. So if you don't like the receiver radio combination that comes with the vehicle, you can actually plug one into this port here on the top and then run your own receiver. So you can still use it just as an ESC without the receiver part, and use, you know, if you want to upgrade the radio separately, you can still use that ESC without having to buy a whole new ESC. A lot of the 2-in-1 combos, or pretty much all the 2-in-1 combos, you do have to basically replace both components if you change out one. Servo, fairly basic. I think it's the SLT 650 servo, something like 5 kg/centimeters, I think around 80-90 ounce-inches of torque, so very minimal servo. Actually pretty decent speed, I think about 0.14 seconds per 60 degrees, so speed is actually pretty decent. Torque is definitely on the low end, but it was fine for a 2-wheel drive vehicle without a lot of weight. This vehicle is pretty much all plastic, so not a big deal. And then the 12-turn 540 sized Arrma motor, I think that's been coming on all their vehicles for a while now. It is part of their Mega line, so Mega for Arrma means their brush line. So yeah, pretty basic brush motor. It's not fast or anything like that, but you know, it works really fine. Electronics wise, I think this is actually best in class. This radio is probably the best like entry-level radio that comes on any RTR brushed vehicle. I think the motor's totally fine. A little bit slow, but I think it's more actually geared low than it is an actually super slow motor. And then the ESC radio combo or receiver combo, probably the best in class, because even though it's a 2-in-1 combo ESC, just like most other vehicles, you can actually separate them. You can run your own receiver and you can run this as an EC. That's nice. Servo, not the greatest. It is 23 tooth servo, so you will need a 23 tooth servo horn if you use one on there, but you probably won't need to buy one. You know, a little bit weak on the torque side, but speed-wise is actually pretty good, and actually more important than the torque, because it's a 2-wheel drive vehicle. You don't need a whole ton of power, a whole ton of torque in the front end. So I do think that electronics is actually best in class. I'm gonna give it 5 stars. Definitely better than like the Slash stuff. Radio, I think, is way better with the dual rate actually adjustment. That is huge. TQI radio is even fewer adjustments than this, so I think that's actually worse. The Senton Boost is very similar to their whole Senton lineup, either the 3S BLX or the Mega lineup. I think it's pretty much identical to the Mega lineup. So it does have the fixed steering links, does have the composite chassis, a nice little battery straps to make adjustments, a little spacers here that you can remove to get longer batteries in there, nickel metal hydride and LiPo compatible, plastic shocks up front, does have diff gears front and rear. I think they're plastic ring and pinion, but the internal gears are steel, so that's pretty nice. Heavy duty bumpers front and rear. I don't think these things will break. Body posts are nice. They are adjustable, so if you use a different body, you can kind of tune it and set it up for whatever body you're using. Now on the Mega lineup, there are some downsides to this over the BLX lineup. It says it's brushless already. It says it is upgradable to 4x4, but just buying a brushless system and throwing in the front wheel drive shafts and all that is not going to get you exactly the same as the 3S BLX. It does have a 48 pitch pinion in there. The slipper, again, is somewhat down, a downgrade from the BLX slipper. The BLX slipper is a little bit more heavy duty. The BLX also has adjustable turnbuckles front and rear, so a little bit more adjustability there. But other than that, they're very similar vehicles. I think they all have the aluminum hinge pin braces, same disc front and rear, so most of it is the same, but there are some slight differences in the power module to make the BLX a more beefy option. So if you wonder if upgrading this to the BLX and upgrading to 4-wheel drive will get the exact same thing, the answer is actually no. But regardless, I think it's still a pretty good design. As a 2-wheel drive vehicle, obviously it's mid-motor, no center drive shaft, no front-wheel drive, of course. And I wouldn't say it's really the ideal rear-wheel drive setup. If you're building a rear-wheel drive vehicle from scratch, this is not exactly what you do. Obviously, this is kind of more a vehicle that can start its life as a 2-wheel drive vehicle, and then if you want to spend more money down the road, you can upgrade to the four-wheel drive version or even a brushless version, and probably want to upgrade the motor module, at least the spur gear, and then the slipper and the pinion as well, because that will just give you a little bit more durability in the drivetrain. So as is, I actually think the design's somewhat weird, but because it is upgradable, because it does have some niceties like the aluminum hinge pin braces, the 48 pitch spur gear is pretty typical, and then you do have that upgrade path which goes a little bit nicer. So I do think that makes it above average in the design category. I know you have 4 stars, not the best overall, but something pretty interesting and pretty different, and certainly can be extensible in the future. Out of the box, I think the Senton is pretty slow. I do have a slash 2-wheel drive as well, so I'm kind of familiar with how that drives. It does seem like it's under geared a little bit, and I think the reason for that is that when you go up to a 4-wheel drive, you know, they don't expect you to swap out the pinion or anything like that. So I think it's a little bit under geared. So in case you do actually throw in the 4-wheel drive, you know, you're not overheating the motor. So I'd say you could actually definitely go up on the pinion. I went up 3 teeth on the pinion. I think its stock is 17 tooth. I went up to 20 tooth. That will give you more speed for sure. It'll run hotter, of course, but even at those pinion sizes, you know, the temperature on the motor is getting about 160 degrees. So I think somewhere in that 2 tooth to 3 tooth increment would be right to gear this thing up if you're only running on 2-wheel drive. If you go to 4-wheel drive, then you would want to go back to the stock pinion, because that's basically what it's designed for. But yeah, it is kind of slow. The second thing I would say about the way it drives, it's pretty much terrible in dirt. The mid-motor thing means there's no weight on the rear end of the tires, where, you know, basically are the drive wheels. Normal 2-wheel drive dirt vehicles have the motor all the way in the back. Slash is designed that way. The ECX Amp is designed that way. That gives you decent drive, so you can actually propel this thing forward and have some traction on these rear tires. The tires are actually pretty decent overall. I do like the tires, but really the design is not quite right for rear-wheel drive. It really is optimized for 4-wheel drive, and that's why the motor is in the middle. The second thing I would say is that the kick-up on the front end is really flat. Normally the front of the vehicle, it's called the kick-up, where the arms mount, is much more angled, makes it a little smoother through the rough stuff, over bumps, that kind of thing. As is, it's actually very, very direct steering. It tends to like oversteer like on an instant in dirt. Now on high traction surfaces, it actually drives quite well. I took this to the racetrack, which was a carpet racetrack. Drove awesome there, probably better than any other entry-level short course truck you can buy. So in that environment, I'd say on the street, on high traction surfaces, carpet, grass is actually not bad either. It's actually pretty decent in the grass. It drives pretty well, but if you're planning to drive this thing on dirt, I would say the performance is actually quite poor. So in the performance category, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I really think, you know, all off-road RC vehicles should drive pretty decently in the dirt, and this does not. But on high traction surfaces, it's actually above average, but it's also kind of slow out of the box. So that kind of brings it back down to an average rating. I'm gonna give it 3 stars in the performance category. It's not bad, you know, it's pretty decent, just not very versatile on where you can drive it out of the box. If you want to run off-road in dirt, in dust, you know, gravel, that kind of thing, you really would want to go to the 4-wheel drive optional upgrade. If you're on carpet, the street, whatever, I think it's totally fine out of the box. It does actually drive okay there. So in the performance category, 3 stars, I'd say it's average. This platform was pretty much designed to go 50 miles per hour. The Senton BLX on 3S goes something like 52, 53 miles per hour. It is capable of some high speeds, and I think the whole vehicle is actually pretty durable. The bumpers, the body, everything adds a lot of durability. I think the body is actually higher quality than the Traxxas Slash body, so you get an advantage there in durability. Chassis is also very rigid, very tough at the speed you're going to be going on a brushed motor. Now, when you go up to, you know, 4S or something like that, yeah, you may run into issues, but on a brushed vehicle, out of the box, pretty much impossible to break this thing. I don't think you could do any damage to it. I certainly haven't broken anything, and it's pretty much overbuilt for how it comes out of the box, because it's really intended for much higher speeds, much more power, 4-wheel drive, you know, being launched 10, 15 feet high in the air, and that's nothing you can do with the vehicle as is. So it doesn't go fast enough to really break anything. And so from a durability perspective, I would say it's actually best in class. This is probably the most durable 2-wheel drive, you know, entry-level brush vehicle you can buy. More durable than the Amp, more durable than the Slash in my opinion. Really the only weakness I would say is the 48 pitch spur gear. A little bit small in the tooth count. It'd be nice if it was like 32 pitch, a little bigger, fatter teeth, a little more durable. But because it's not a particularly fast motor, as long as you keep an eye on that, make sure your motor doesn't move and strip the spur gear, or make sure your slipper set correctly. It actually hold up pretty well, and overall is a very durable vehicle. So in the durability category, I'm gonna give 5 stars. I think this is best in class, pretty much unbreakable as it is out of the box. Arrma is owned by Horizon Hobby, which is one of the largest RC companies out there. They own a ton of brands, Arrma, Losi, Axial. So one of the largest companies, and they have really good support, I would say. You can certainly call them up, get some help. You can chat with them online. It may take a little while to get through to customer support, but they are available, and I generally use the chat option to get any sort of questions I have answered. Warranty is also excellent. I believe it's 2 years, pretty much bumper to bumper. I'd say they're almost over generous in how easy they are to work with regards to their warranty, and a lot of people warranty things that I don't think is warranted. Excuse the pun, but yeah, certainly they are easy to work with. Never had too many issues if I need something warranted. Parts availability is fairly easy across the board. Arrma is a pretty big brand. Horizon is pretty much located in every hobby shop out there, at least in the US. So you are able to get parts, and because this platform is pretty much exactly the same as a 3S and Mega lineup, a lot of stores already carry the parts that you might need to buy in the case where you break something. So yeah, this vehicle's been out for a long time, easy to get parts. Horizon's a big company. They generally keep things in stock. I think in the support and maintenance category, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I wouldn't say they're quite as easy as Traxxas. Traxxas pretty much has that area covered on the support and maintenance side, but this is actually pretty good as well. I'm gonna give them 4 stars, just a hair below Traxxas in my opinion. The Senton Boost sells for $199.99 here in the US. I think that's a $50 or $60 discount over the 4x4 Mega lineup. So, is this actually a good deal? I think it's pretty fair. I think the Slash is exactly the same price at $199.95. The Amp is $160, so a little bit cheaper. The Granite Voltage is $150. This, I guess, they're a super entry line vehicle within the Arrma market. So at $200, pretty fair, I'd say. This is a better vehicle than most of those other vehicles in terms of what you get. A really nice chassis, composite chassis. Shocks actually work pretty well, even though they're plastic. They're pretty smooth. No durability concerns on brushed motors or anything like that. Tires are excellent. They do have foams in there. You do have steel gears within the differentials, and they are actually pretty durable, much more durable than I think the Traxxas Slash is. So yeah, overall, I think the vehicle is actually pretty good. Electronics are excellent. This is one of the better radios out there for sure. ESC I think is excellent. Motor's totally fine. So overall in the value category, at $200, it's obviously on the high end price wise, but I think you kind of get what you pay for. So I don't think it's overpriced. The Amp and the Granite Voltage do include batteries and chargers, and that's kind of the one area I would say this is kind of missing, lacking a little bit. The Slash does not come with a battery or anything like that at $200. They do make an option for a little bit more, and the same with the Boost here. So you can pay more for a battery option, but then you're really talking about $70, $80 more than those entry-level ECX amps or the Arrma Granite Voltage. So in the value category, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. I think it's fair. It's not a smashing good deal. I think you get what you pay for. I wouldn't say you would necessarily go out and buy this because it's so cheap. $200 is still a fair amount of money for an entry-level vehicle, but this is again one of the better entry-level vehicles, so I think it's a fair price at 3 stars. So final thoughts on the Arrma Senton 4x2 Boost. What do I think about this vehicle? Well, what I would say is that as a 2-wheel drive vehicle, it's a good truck, but it is limited in where you can actually drive it. I would say if you're just ripping up and down the street, it's totally fine. For some reason, you're taking it out to a carpet track. Actually, it's probably the best carpet truck out there in that 2-wheel drive lineup. But I would say if you're running on dirt exclusively, this is not a good vehicle. It really just doesn't have the traction. Really not designed for dirt as is. You really would want to get the 4x4. And then power-wise, yeah, it's a little slow. Pretty much all brushed vehicles out there are going to be slow, somewhere in that 15 to 20 mile per hour range. And this really is no more faster than those other ones. I would say geared up, though. If you're just going to run it 2-wheel drive as is, geared up, You'll get a little more speed. It'll be, a little bit more interesting, a little more fun that way, and I think it can handle that. This motor is not going to overheat, if you go up like 2 teeth, I don't think. So I think that's totally fine. So in terms of the vehicle itself, really the draw of this vehicle is it might be something you don't want to spend a whole lot of money on. $200 is still a pretty decent amount of money. Maybe you have a kid that you want to buy this for and you're not sure if they're going to like RC cars. You don't want to spend $300-400. I get that. That makes sense. Maybe try this out. And then if they show interest, or they want to drive more off-road, or maybe eventually go brushless, you could do that and sort of grow into it. And I think it's totally fine. Sentons and short course trucks in general are an interesting segment of the market. Short course truck was super popular like 7, 8, 10 years ago. It's kind of died down a little less popular, but a lot of people still buy a Slash, and maybe you have friends that have a Slash two-wheel drive and you just want something different. Maybe you want to race them on the street, in a parking lot or something like that. I think this thing would actually win. I do have a Slash two-wheel drive stock. I'll probably be doing a comparison video with that, but out of the box, on high traction surfaces, this is actually a better vehicle than the Slash. On low traction surfaces, I actually think the Slash drives quite a bit better because it does have the rear motor and has more weight on the rear end to allow you to drive through those loose traction surfaces. So anyways, those are my thoughts on the Arrma Senton 4x2 boost. Let me know what you think. Are you thinking about getting one? Do you think it would make a good entry-level vehicle for a kid or something like that? I think it actually would. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to hit the like, share, subscribe buttons. Look for more videos soon. Thanks for watching.